Hello you dirty dogs and welcome back to One on One, the most in-depth football show on YouTube. Today we're going to break down the latest paper talk linking players to Celtic and Rangers. I'm going to do 3 rumours apiece because I'm diplomatic like that. With Champions League qualification on the horizon, there is an additional pressure to make the next fortnight of the transfer window count for Celtic and Rangers. Preparation-wise, the Gers in a much better position than their cross-city rivals. Plus, by virtue of winning their 55th title, Steven Gerrard's men only have to navigate 4 matches in order to reach the Champions League group stages. After last season's show, Celtic kick off their season on the 20th of July, playing FC Midtjylland, who were the runners-up in the Danish Superliga. That tie, of course, being the second round of qualification for the UCL. Every time I use the acronym UCL, a small part of me dies. This means that the boys will have to defeat 3 opponents to make it to the Champions League promised lands, and they won't be on the champions side of the draw either, along with seeded teams by virtue of being runners-up. This is all while trying to turn over several key components of the first team and bed in a new manager. Yikes. So, who is coming in to bolster the old firm's ultimate objective of reaching the group stages of Europe's most prestigious competition? What qualities would said players bring to each respective clubs? And ultimately, do we think these potential transfers are realistic? And if so, do we think they're a good idea? There's only one bloody way to find out, isn't there? Let's dive in. But not before we plug our friends over at Manscaped. That's right, they're now sponsoring One on One. They've got a finger in every FD and EFD pie, and as such, we've got the cleanest balls on YouTube. Fact. And if you want to take advantage of our discount code and free international shipping, then use said code on screen right now or visit the link in the description for more details. Asazi Erigida. Now, Celtic have been linked with a number of promising youngsters, haven't they? Including Hajduk Split's 19-year-old Mario Vuskovic and Ecuadorian youngster Piero Hincapié, both of whom are being pursued by Serie A clubs, so don't hold your breath. However, I don't have a lot of data on either of them. Plus, I wrote this script when I was hungover after the England game. So, I'm opening the video with a brief explanation of the Asazi Erigida transfer. In order to prize the young 6'2" centre-back away from Sheffield Wednesday, Celtic had to pay a development fee of £200,000. Now, when you consider the calibre of team that are in for him, this looks like mightily impressive business. Last season was Erigida's breakout campaign, with the former Wimbledon man making 17 appearances in the Championship between January and the end of the season. Although mainly deployed at centre-half, the youngster was used at left-back and right-back, useful given Celtic's lack of depth in those areas. However, a cursory glance at his numbers would suggest that his future lies down the middle. Now take these stats with a pinch of salt because 1200 minutes is a very limited sample size, but we'll crack on. Last season, Asazi was winning a very impressive 73% of the ground duels that he contested. For context, that's superior to Christopher Ajer in a tougher division on a less dominant side, so not to be sniffed at. Encouragingly, Erigida was also racking up 2 interceptions per 90, enough to put him in the top 20 for defenders for that metric in the Championship. So, what are his shortcomings? Now, given how little game time he's racked up, it would be unfair to jump to any definitive conclusions, but his numbers do suggest that he's more comfortable out of possession than he is in it. While he seems relatively comfortable stepping out with the ball and beating that initial press, his passing numbers do let him down somewhat. At Sheffield Wednesday, he was only completing 26 passes per 90 with a 68% success rate. That was fewer passes per game than the first and second choice goalkeeper. In his defence, Darren Moore's side averaged the 4th least amount of possession in the league, so it was hardly an environment to work on this skill set. Slightly more concerning though was the lack of variation in Erigida's passing, with the big man only completing 1 long ball per 90. Crisp, incisive passing is central to Postecoglou's ethos, so if Asazi wants to start, he's going to have to brush up on this area of his game. All in all, a good price for a solid prospect. I'm going to give this move a C+. Santiago Moreno. Now, according to Win Sports' Pipe Sierra, Rangers are preparing a bid of roughly $2.5 million for Colombian forward Santiago Moreno. Last season, the forward contributed to 8 goals and 17 Primera Division starts for America de Cali, while netting 2 and 6 in the Copa Libertadores. He was actually the club's top goal scorer, with the Red Devils only netting 20 goals in as many games. Apparently, CD America are the Colombian Burnley. From what I gather, he's a right-footed wide man with blistering pace, maybe a quality that that Gerrard wants to add to his squad in light of the upcoming games in the Champions League qualification stage, giving the Gers the option to absorb pressure against sides who are superior in possession and then hit them with genuine pace on the counter. Football Insider has reported that Norwich, Southampton, Leeds and Atalanta United are all interested, which is a pretty decent start, isn't it? Still, this would mean Yanis Hadji vacating his position on the right-hand side, and the Romanian performed admirably for Steven Gerrard's men last term, putting up 15 goal contributions in 20 league starts. However, he was less of a threat in the Europa League, putting up just 2 goal involvements in 6 games and only averaging the 4th best amount of key passes per 90 in the Rangers squad. Either way, adding pace to a forward line that is already technically gifted feels pretty smart. I'm going to give this whole scenario a C+. Aaron Mooy. According to many a tabloid, Ange Postecoglou has made the former Huddersfield and Brighton player a key transfer target this summer. However, Celtic's new boss, who managed Mooy at international level between 2013 and 2017, will have to convince his fellow countrymen to take a huge hit financially speaking. That's because Mooy is on over £60,000 a week over in China, which is twice the amount of Celtic's top earner last season. Now, before he left for Chinese shores, Mooy was a mainstay in Graham Potter's Brighton, featuring in 32 Premier League games in the 2019-20 season. In this time, he proved a solid all-rounder, racking up the 2nd most key passes in the squad, putting up the 3rd most balls into the penalty area, while taking 1.7 shots per 90 and putting up 2.6 defensive actions. Not to mention how hard-working he was off the ball, with Davy Pröpper the only midfielder who pressed with more regularity. Is Celtic's midfield lacking these qualities? I'm not so sure. His skill set feels quite similar to Callum McGregor's, a box-to-box midfielder who's well capable of affecting the game in the opposition's third. Instinctively, I'd say that the touted £4 million fee and hefty wage packet would be better off designated to a deep-lying playmaker like Matt Grimes from Swansea. Maybe Postecoglou thinks he can convert him, deploying a midfield 3 of Soro, McGregor and Mooy, in which case a talented number 10 like David Turnbull or Tom Rogic misses out. Maybe I'm missing something, but I'm not fully convinced. What do you guys think? I'm giving this link a D. Gustavo Hamer. The Brazilian-born Dutchman joined Coventry from PEC Zwolle last season for a paltry £1.35 million. Now, following his stellar maiden campaign in the English Championship for the Sky Blues, he's been linked with a number of clubs. No doubt his 7 goal involvements from a deep position played a part in rousing their interest. In his 36 starts, Hamer demonstrated an impressive versatility. Unsurprising given he received his football education at Feyenoord. Not only did he complete the 2nd most passes in the squad on a game-to-game basis, including 3.2 long balls, he also added 3.4 defensive actions into the mix. Although, does need to cool his jets slightly, as he was conceding 2 fouls per 90, which contrasts pretty starkly to the calming presence of Rangers' Northern Irishman Stephen Davis, who's very much the controller in the Bears midfield. What's really impressive though is how Hamer managed to marry this solid passing and defensive output with really good attacking output, putting up 1.8 key passes per 90 and 2.3 shots. I haven't come across that many championship midfielders who are that well rounded across the board, and this is particularly impressive given that he plays for Coventry, who were only promoted last season. Hamer is currently valued at £1.8 million by the extremely conservative transfer market, but I imagine it will take a bid of 3 times that to prize him away from the Midlands side. But if Rangers can pull it off for under £5 million, I see him being a great long-term replacement for the 36-year-old Davies, albeit a slightly different profile of midfielder. I'm giving this one a B+. George Baldock. Now, I could have quite easily stuck Hibernian hitman Kevin Nisbet here, but that isn't new news, is it? What is, though, at least to me, is that Celtic are apparently weighing up a move for Sheffield United's right-back George Baldock. Now, the boys only have one recognised player in that position at current in Anthony Ralston. Last season's number 1 and 2, which was Jeremy Frimpong and Hatem El Hamid, were both shipped out before the campaign finished. So it does make sense that Big Ange is willing to plunge a bunch of cash into that flank. However, Sheffield United in a very strong negotiating position as Baldock signed a new Blades deal last season. So it wouldn't come cheap. And herein lies my problem. There is no way that I would spend the reported £5 to £8 million on Baldock. I would rather gamble on someone like Marco Meyer-Hofer, who has had 2 really impressive seasons in the Bully 2 for Greuther Fürth. Although I've just realised that new work permit rules might scupper that move. Either way, I'm giving this one a straight up D. Joey Veerman. Now, this is really distressing, as I touted the 22-year-old for Celtic's midfield in the rebuild over on my channel. And when he was first linked with Rangers, I laughed it off, but the rumours have persisted. Seemingly, Veerman wanted a move out of Heerenveen this season, but to one of Ajax or PSV. Ajax, thoroughly well stocked for midfielders, PSV have just bought Pröper back. So his options in the Eredivisie looking limited. Why aren't there more clubs interested in this player? If he goes to Rangers, I will lose my head. Now, most of the time, he is deployed as a left-sided central midfielder in a 4-3-3 with a heavy emphasis on stitching the midfield and attack together. Although, not to say he neglects his defensive duties, putting up 3.1 tackles and interceptions per 90. He's also a very adept dribbler, completing 2.3 take-ons per 90, which ranked him as the 4th best for that metric in the Eredivisie last season. So he would give Rangers that much needed press resistance when playing in Europe. Like I said, this would be a class move, but his £9 million price tag seems to have warded off a few suitors. Now, in a pre-COVID environment, I think that is a perfectly justifiable fee, given his age, his form over the last 2 seasons, and the fact his contract runs until 2024. But this season, there is less money to go around, and any potential suitor might want to wait another year and then bid £10 million just to see if he can sustain his form once more. Either way, I think if you can get him for 9 mil, do it as soon as possible. Giving this transfer rumour a big fat A. So, in summary, Rangers have been linked to players that are far more to my liking. Great. Broken the iPad. I want you lot at home to rank these transfers 1 to 6 in the comments below. Plus, tell me who else you would like Celtic and Rangers to pursue in the transfer market, and hit me up with any breaking news. We can maybe do a part 2 to this at the end of the window. So before we go, just another big fat thank you to Manscaped for sponsoring this episode of 1&1. And if you want to get 20% off their stellar products and free international shipping, then use the code on screen right now or follow the instructions in the link below. That's it for this week. Like the video, it really does help on a niche channel like Euro Football Daily. Subscribe to the channel with notifications on. And oh yeah, we'll catch you next time. Goodbye.